So in this one, I'm going to be explaining what happens to Gojo in the Jujutsu Kaisen manga, and this is clearly taking place after season 1, and it might happen in season 2 depending on how long they want to stretch that season out. But obviously this means I'm going to be going into massive spoilers, so if you don't want to know what's going to happen, check out. So this whole big sequence essentially revolves around Geto's plan for Gojo and getting him out of the picture. And when I say Geto, I actually mean Kenjaku, because it turns out that the Geto with the stitches that we see is not actually Geto, but it's actually an ancient sorcerer who has the ability to transplant his brain to different bodies, and his name is Kenjaku. This all started in chapter 11/episode 6 when we see Kenjaku meeting with Jogo in that diner, where he's basically telling him that, like, instead of trying to kill Gojo, which is like near impossible, you might as well just seal him using a special grade curse item like the prison realm. And the prison realm is like the big MacGuffin and also Chekhov's gun, because it was set up for a reason, because it was obviously going to come back and very likely be successfully used. But anyway, going much further into the series, we come to the Shibuya arc, and this takes place on Halloween of that same year, where Kenjaku decides to start the big, maybe phase 1 of his ultimate plan for humanity, and this starts with him getting rid of Gojo. So this big curtain is cast over Shibuya, trapping tons of people inside of it, and Gojo eventually enters this curtain and makes his way down to the basement subway. And once he gets down there, he sees a whole bunch of civilians trapped down there, but also Jogo, Hanami, and Choso are there as well. Now once they see that Gojo has finally entered, they wind up sealing off all of the exits and entrances. Even though this doesn't really phase Gojo because he says he's not going to leave anyway, it's still a huge element of their plan, because they need to keep all of the civilians down there in order to keep Gojo on his toes, to keep him thinking. And while Gojo doesn't have like unrequited altruism like other manga heroes, he still does care about these civilians and doesn't want them to die, but he's not going to be too bothered if some of them actually do die, because we see that happens quite a lot in this sequence. Like Jogo, Hanami, and Choso like slaughter a whole bunch of people right in front of Gojo. But that, along with fighting him in these close quarters, having all of the civilians packed in here, is just to keep Gojo on his toes, to keep him thinking, and to ultimately keep him distracted long enough for the plan to get to the phase of where it needs to be. But anyway, this eventually leads to Gojo singling out Hanami, saying that he's going to take him down first, and he absolutely does that, because Gojo decides to amplify Infinity against Hanami, who is trapped against a wall at this point, and pretty much vaporizes him. And after, Gojo of course tries to go after Jogo, but eventually a train makes its way to the subway station where they're at, and on this train are like 1,000 transfigured humans along with Mahito. So now Mahito joins the fight as well, along with Jogo and Choso, and nothing really changes on Gojo's part. I mean, they're still ineffective against him, but the big aspect here is the transfigured humans that came with Mahito, because they start attacking all of the civilians, and Gojo starts thinking, like, why are you killing them? Isn't it more advantageous for you to keep them alive? Then we see the entrances and exits open up that were originally trapped when he entered, and Gojo figures that, oh, there must be curses and curse users up there that are just going to keep piling in more and more civilians down there. And this goes into the big gambit that Kenjaku and the curses are trying to use against Gojo here. Make him think, keep him on his toes, make him concentrate, and ultimately keep him distracted. And that's exactly what's happening here, because Gojo is thinking about the possibilities of what's going on here and how he can save all of these people. Now Jogo assumes that this whole gambit here will stop Gojo from using his domain expansion, because on paper that's the only way that he can stop 1,000 transfigured humans as well as the other curses simultaneously, because if he were to use his domain expansion, he would surely kill everyone here because it's so unbelievably powerful. But Gojo's like, nah, I'm gonna do it anyway, and he decides to activate for 0.2 seconds, because apparently Gojo figures that if he does it for this short amount of time, in theory it shouldn't have any long-lasting effects on non-sorcerers such as the civilians down here. And it says that while it is kind of messing them up, they should be okay after 2 months of rehabilitation. But this kind of does work out in Gojo's favor, because it ultimately winds up making all of the transfigured humans unconscious, and it says that in the span of 299 seconds, Gojo kills all of them. But at the end of his rampage, he suddenly comes across the prison realm. But it also turns out that Kenjaku is there as well, and he commands the prison realm to open. Then at this point, we get the crucial exposition on the prison realm, where it's explained that it's a living barrier and the final remains of the Buddhist monk Genshin. Kenjaku says there is nothing the prison realm can't seal, but of course there are some conditions to it. So after opening the prison realm, they have to keep Gojo within a 4-meter radius of it for 1 minute. And then after Kenjaku says the 1 minute thing, Jogo gets angry because he's like, how do you expect us to keep Gojo contained for 1 minute? Which is completely understandable. But Kenjaku clarifies by saying that it's 1 minute worth of time inside Gojo's brain. So I guess this could be taken a few ways. This could mean that Gojo processes information and time at a much faster rate than a normal person because the 6 eyes or infinity, or just because he's so powerful. Or it could mean you keeping him distracted and making him think so much will make the time within his mind process at a much faster rate. Maybe him running through scenarios or him remembering things, because that brings us to the next part here, because after the prison realm opens and we see its eye looking into Gojo's eyes, Kenjaku comes up behind Gojo. And this is significant because this is the first time that Gojo is going to be seeing Geto since he killed him in Volume 0, which took place a year ago. And as we knew, Geto was Gojo's best friend. And of course, this kind of paralyzes Gojo, who is in disbelief. And at first he thinks like there's no way that that's actually Geto because he knows that he killed him. But then the 6 eyes makes him realize that, oh, that literally is Geto in front of me. And then we come to the whole big reveal about Kenjaku, which I talked about in the beginning. But while this is happening, Gojo is successfully sealed by the prison realm. And while it's happening, Gojo says he can't feel his cursed energy in his body and he can't move a muscle either, and realizes that it's checkmate. Then Kenjaku says gate close, and the cube closes with Gojo inside of it. Then we get a glimpse of Gojo inside of the prison realm, and it's like this shadowy place with all of these skeletons surrounding him, and Gojo says that time doesn't pass in there. So that's a little silver lining, meaning that Gojo, will always kind of live as long as he's in there, regardless of how much time has passed in the actual world. Kenjaku also reveals that he can't use the prison realm anymore after this, and that it can only have 1 occupant at a time, unless the person trapped inside takes their own life. And yeah, that's pretty much what happened to Gojo in the Jujutsu Kaisen manga. And to this day, he is still sealed within the prison realm. We haven't seen him for almost 100 chapters at this point. Now, in my opinion, and I think it's extremely likely given how the story has been playing out, he will eventually be unsealed. Because it turns out that, conveniently, there's another aspect to the prison realm. The back of the prison realm, which is like a separate cube altogether. And it turns out that Tengen had this the whole time, but he winds up revealing this to Yuji and the gang because he tasks them with finding a person who could nullify curse techniques. Because if you have this ability, similar to what the inverted spear of heaven had that we saw Toji use, or the black rope that Miguel had, both of which are no longer available, then you can open the back of the prison realm and free who was ever sealed in the front part of it, the part that we saw that Kenjaku had. So they'll eventually have to find this person named Hana Kurusu, who's a player in the culling game who has the ability to nullify curse techniques, and convince her to use her ability on the back of the prison realm. No, that hasn't happened yet, but I'm pretty sure it eventually will. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. What do you think is going to happen? And if you like the video, guys, please leave it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.